Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Astro Consciousness channel. I'm Millie, and I am here to give you your forecast for the new moon in Pisces taking place on February 27th. In this channel, we talk about the astrological energy of the week ahead and how you can integrate it into your personal and spiritual growth, and talk about a season of integrated, personal, very human, very 3D reality along with our spiritual growth. So before I hop on to talking about the new moon in Pisces, I want to mention that on Sunday, the 23rd, the day that this lesson drops on YouTube, Mars goes direct in Cancer. That is a big, big deal. So let's talk about that a little bit because I think that's important in general. It gives us some foresight for what's to come around the summertime, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere around June. But it also makes for the week of February 24th through the 28th an amazing, amazing week to launch, to initiate, to announce, to make the call, to send the email, to make connections, to arrange meetings, to start something really beautiful that you have either been thinking about, preparing for, having some doubts around, especially since I would go as far back as October of 2024, right? Because technically the retrograde time frame of Mars has been between December 6th and February 23rd. And so I invite you to think about, any confrontations that you had with anyone else in between that time and how that has marked a definitive line of a before and after in relationships. I invite you to think about how much you've been going back and forth with something within yourself of, I want to move forward in this direction. I want to initiate this. I want to start this, but I don't know how. This is very new. I don't know, this is really bringing me out of my comfort zone. And that has been the process. That has been the point of Mars retrograde in Cancer. Mars is about how do I take action? But when it's retrograde, it's about us reassessing our why. It's about us evaluating why do I want to go after what I want to go after, right? And when we do that, when we take the time to evaluate our why, what we are exercising is our healthy masculine. Because instead of being reactive, instead of just acting or taking action from an unaligned place within us, from a place of anger, of resentment, oh, I'm going to start that thing because I'm going to show them who I am. I'm going to show them what they missed out on. That is not an aligned action with our soul. That is not an aligned action with that sense of home within, with an integrated soul in the nervous system in the body. That is the wounded masculine taking action from something that hasn't yet been integrated. So I find it really interesting that on March 1st, Venus goes retrograde. So the cosmic lovers, the planets that rule masculine and feminine dynamics in the zodiac and in our lives are going retrograde back to back, right? For those of you who have the eclipse guide, you know that I took a deep dive into Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde happening at the same time. But I find it really interesting that those two planets are going retrograde back to back, which means that we are reassessing, we are realigning, we are reconnecting with, I feel, or being given the opportunity to reconnect with a healthier, much more integrated, much more embodied expression of both the masculine and the feminine. This is big. So Mars going direct on Sunday, February 23rd, in the sign of Cancer, is the opportunity for us to say, I have come across some things within myself that perhaps I hadn't worked on in the way that I thought I did, especially around family, around maternal figures, mothers, feminine figures in our lives, caretaker figures in our lives. How have we played that role, right? And so any pent-up resentment or anger had to have come up. Any way that we were approaching our life from a place where we weren't being the best parent to ourselves, right? During the Mars retrograde in Cancer over the last 8 weeks now, we were shown, we were really shown, this is how you are not fully loving yourself. This is how you are not creating an unconditionally loving life and environment for yourself. Another thing that we were shown with that Mars retrograde is that that which we tolerate, we are choosing, whether it's of another or of ourselves. Because in that period of time, the nodes switch signs, North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo. And one of the things that those nodes are highlighting and will continue to highlight are patterns, whether it's behavioral patterns within ourselves or certain patterns and dynamics in relationships. And again, that Mars retrograde and Cancer period of time was showing us where maybe we have been playing the victim, but only because we are not choosing what's for our well-being in the long run. The reason that I keep bringing these themes around how we take care of ourselves, how we parent ourselves, having some foresight, right, of what is good for us in the long run is because Cancer represents the parent, the mother of the zodiac. And in so many ways, we are our own parent. We care for our inner child, perhaps in the way that our parents could not. So there is a lot that came up with that Mars retrograde, and I am so happy and excited that it is now turning direct, and it plays such a beautiful role in this new moon in Pisces. So with that said, let's get started. So this new moon in Pisces, as I mentioned before, takes place on February 27th, 2025 at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and it technically marks the beginning of eclipse season. This is a really exciting time because this new moon in Pisces is giving us the opportunity to tie in who we are becoming as a human being in this world, who we are showing up as for ourselves, for what we are devoted to, and let that be guided by something greater. Okay. Don't forget, guys, that you can purchase your eclipse guide at astroconsciousness.com. So many of you have already purchased it. And on Sunday, March 16th, I am going to have a live Zoom session in which I'm going to do an even bigger deep dive into the season and what it means for the rest of the year, as well as guide the group through an inner journey, which is one of my favorite things to do as a coach because there's a lot of transformation and healing that happens in those sessions between my clients and I. So, for those of you who already purchased the Eclipse Guide, let me know in the comments what you think, how the lessons are landing for you, and how the guided meditation is going for you. So, this new moon in Pisces is at 9 degrees Pisces, right? And as we can see, we have Saturn, Mercury, the North Node, Neptune, all in the sign of Pisces. This is a stellium in Pisces, which lets us know that this is a new moon of spiritual growth, that this is a new moon that is inviting us to go within, to go into the depths of our soul and to connect with that which is greater, with that which is ethereal. For some people, that's going to be God. For others, it's going to be spirit, source, the universe, Mother Nature. Whatever it is for you, this new moon in Pisces is marking this energy and opening up this eclipse season to say over the next 8 weeks, I really invite you to hold on to that ethereal, something greater energy to guide you. Because when you do, you can actually create a reality, a life of miracles, right? Now, one of the things we have to keep in mind is that Saturn is in Pisces. And Saturn in Pisces has a closer conjunction to Mercury and Pisces. So wherever Saturn is involved, Saturn is always going to invite us to say, what are you committed to? How are you showing up? How are you being mature about this? What structure, what conduit are you giving this dream, this idea, this imaginative thing to move through? I've said it before, but I'll repeat it again. Saturn in Pisces is about what we are devoted to from the heart and the soul versus how are we showing up to life because we feel obligated to do certain things. Now, I'm a Capricorn. I'm going to keep things very grounded, very real, and I'm not going to deny that we have certain obligations, right? Paying our bills, paying our rent or our mortgage, right? Paying, doing adulting things that we don't always necessarily want to do, but that are a part of life. But when we step outside of those obligations, whether we like them or not, how are we choosing? How are we intentionally choosing who and what is in our lives? How our energy is being spent? What are we focusing on? This is important to understand because Saturn is there, and Saturn is the planet of responsibility. As much Pisces energy that is there, because we have a massive stellium in Pisces, we can no longer excuse ourselves, play the victim, which is the lower expression of Pisces, of why is this happening to me? Why isn't the other person different so that I can be happy, right? Why aren't my dreams coming true right now? Why can't things be the way that I want them to be? Because one, we have no control over this massive shift that is happening, right? And Saturn is saying, how are you committing to yourself and to your well-being, spiritual, emotional, and psychological, when you devote yourself to making intentional decisions around those things for yourself, you can rest assured that everything around you, everything else will fall into place. This Pisces energy, I love that Saturn is there because it gives it some grounding, because it doesn't give us a way out, because it doesn't continue allowing us to put on rose-colored glasses. So it's a beautiful new moon to initiate something, right? Whether it's an exit strategy from somewhere, right? Whether it's like, I'm going to initiate planning my exit strategy from this job, maybe from this relationship, maybe from this house, from where I live. I'm going to initiate the process to selling the house that I live in because I want to go somewhere else, right? I'm going to initiate a conversation with someone that I feel intuitively called to perhaps collaborate or work with. I'm going to start creating something behind the scenes, right? And here's why I say behind the scenes. One, we have a lot of water energy in this new moon, and water energy tends to be a little bit more private, but also because we have a Venus retrograde starting just a few days later, right? Now, that Venus retrograde doesn't mean like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it. Maybe I should just pause everything. No, no, no. That Venus retrograde is, again, for those of you who have the eclipse season, is the return to love, is the return to self. What happens when I do make decisions that are for unconditionally loving to me, for me, and I return to that place of love for me and begin to make decisions from that place, right? And so that Venus retrograde between, Aries and Pisces and then back to Aries is the redefinition of love, but the redefinition of self-love. And this new moon in Pisces, we're a little bit clearer about the direction that we want to move in. We're a little bit clearer about what decisions we're making, about how confident we feel about something. And look, this confidence isn't just coming from our egoic 3D human self. This confidence is coming because we understand that we are divinely guided, protected, provided for. Because if this is especially true, I mean, this is true for anyone, but if you are a creative, you understand that the downloads that you have before you create something, before you write the book or write the post or put the video out, these ideas are not just yours. These ideas come to you from somewhere in the ether, and you are the conduit for that. So, this confidence is about saying, oh, it's done. I've got it. I just have to make enough room and space and peace in my life, in my physical space, in my emotional well being, in my mental real estate to allow these things to flow, to allow my creativity to flow, to allow the solution to the problem to come, to make the connections to certain people, right? To be in the right place at the right time without even trying. Look, from a collective perspective, the fact that we have this stellium in Pisces, to me, this is the beginning of a boom in esoteric practices, astrology, witchcraft, tarot, all of the things, because we are living in a time in which we have hit a logical wall. The changes that we are experiencing and that we will continue to experience throughout 2025 cannot be explained logically because this is not a logical time. This is a time of spiritual ascension that if we don't lean on something beyond the logical to explain what's happening, we're going to go nuts. And I think that this year is going to be the time where, I mean, at least I hope, right, that the left brain and the right brain really meet, or at the very least, there's more acceptance and more openness to practices like these, to gaining some insight, not just about what's happening in the world and what's going to come and how can we prepare, but about what is my place in all of this? What is the connection to my soul, and what does my soul want me to understand at this moment in time? There are much bigger questions than the external ones. This is the invitation to begin truly living from the inside out instead of from the outside in. Because we have to remember that our external reality is only a reflection of our internal reality and the connection, or perhaps lack thereof, to our soul, source, God, spirit, light. That energy, that all isness that exists is always there. But it is never an intrusive energy. It always waits for us to invite it in. Look, I'm a big meditator. I love meditation. It is my go-to, and it has been for about 10 years. But this doesn't mean that you have to do that. This doesn't mean that you have to meditate. This doesn't even mean that you have to go for a walk, that you have to go to yoga, that you have to go to Sandbowl. It doesn't mean that. It can be as simple as you looking around your life. How does it make you feel? And asking yourself, am I in this position because of the decisions that I made? And how does that feel? That's how we ground this, right? Why? Because the South Node is in Virgo. And the South Node in Virgo, in its highest expression, is the remembering of the wisdom of it is what it is. It's an earth sign. Virgo energy is very like it's either this or that. It can be very black and white. And there is something about the simplicity of looking at things exactly for what they are. And an even higher expression is the remembering that life itself is a ritual. How are we showing up to it? What are the decisions that we're making? What are the thoughts that we're choosing? What are the conversations that we're choosing to be a part of? Who are we surrounding ourselves with? Guys, I think that any astrological event that we experience, especially this year, we have to understand that we are being invited to ask ourselves much bigger questions about the people that we're becoming, about who we are choosing to be, and to very, very clearly understand the responsibility that comes with that, and that it is only ours. So while this lovely new moon is beautiful for psychic activity, intuition, um, beautiful downloads and dreams, and being near water, and doing the yoga, doing the sound bath, doing all of those beautiful practices, it doesn't take away from the fact that you have a personal responsibility to yourself to make the decisions that you know are for your well-being in the long run. I'm giving you a little bit of a heads up. Once Saturn moves into Aries later this year, that self, Aries, responsibility, Saturn, oh, it'll make itself clear. And this eclipse season, with this new moon in Pisces opening up that eclipse season, is going to show you how, if you are still resisting and if you are still in denial. Okay. Now, Jupiter in Gemini. Okay. So Jupiter in Gemini plays a big role in this new moon because it creates a square to, um, technically, it creates a square to the new moon itself, right? The moon and the sun. But because we have a stellium in Pisces, we can consider it one bunched up energy that has a square to Jupiter in Gemini. That is a lot. Anything that Jupiter touches, it expands. Okay? So I would not doubt if the upcoming week between the 24th and I would say up to the 2nd, maybe even the 3rd of March, it's a very emotional time for people. Very emotional, lots of clearing, lots of releasing, lots of letting go. But also because this is Jupiter and Gemini, great creative energy, lots of intuitive downloads, lots of dreams. Make sure you journal because even if you're not doing like an active mindfulness practice, like grounding or meditation or walking or anything like that, you'll notice certain things come up. Just journal. It doesn't, you're not looking for anything specific. You're not trying to guess, well, what was my message today? No, no, no. Just journal. And you will notice that if you come back to that journal a week, 2, 3 weeks later, you will notice how certain things are playing out. That's the beauty of Pisces energy. That while we have no logical reason for it, we can trust it in its highest expression, right? In a lower expression, Jupiter and Gemini can be, I'm thinking too much. This is too much energy. What do I do? Where do I go? Who do I ask? Who am I supposed to believe in? And the square to Pisces is wanting to disconnect, dissociate, not in the healthiest ways, right? Pisces in the lower expression represents addiction in the zodiac. What are you addicted to? What are you using to disconnect and not face what's coming up for you, right? One of the things that I have found from way before the beginning of 2025, it's been a topic in therapy, is how much I'm on my phone. I am on my phone way too much. And I go through these periods of time where I'm like, I need to put this thing down, right? And the good thing is that for the most part, I am not doom scrolling. I'm looking at dumb things that make me laugh. I'm looking at inspirational things, at teachers that inspire me. And yet, it's still something that soothes something that in the past I haven't wanted to see. And I've picked that up, right? And like I said, I've brought it to therapy. What does it mean? What's happening? Try to put your phone down if that's your thing. That's my intention for the week ahead. I'm going to put my phone down as much as possible. I need it for work, right? I get emails, I'm online, social media, all the things. But other than that, what do I really need it for? How can I connect to myself, to my creativity, to my home, to my partner, to our dog, to my body? There is so much in my life, South Node in Virgo, that needs tending to, South Node in Virgo. So how can I connect to that, right? Look, Jupiter in Gemini, remember, I've said this before, is the gift of looking at things from a different perspective. So if we're taking advantage of that, how can I look at this from a different perspective? What am I not seeing? How can I open my mind to a different way of looking at this? Is the square to Pisces because essentially you are asking your higher self, the universe, God, right, to help you look at things from a different perspective. So there is so much here. There's so much here. And look, Mercury in Pisces is creating a sextile to Uranus and Taurus. There is another grounding factor. With Uranus, there is breakthrough. I think that this new moon, as the entryway of eclipse season is saying, there is breakthrough when your mind and your soul meet, right? Uranus is the higher mind. Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. It is the breakthrough. It is the breakthrough energy. Uranus is the genius of the zodiac. How can our genius come from a much deeper place, from remembering that within us is the entire universe itself, and that when we tap into that space, we can co-create a really beautiful and miraculous life. And to have that level of awareness, to have that breakthrough, to remember that we carry within us the technology of co-creation with the universe is massive. Because then we realize, oh, nothing, absolutely nothing or no one outside of me has control over me. So, as always, may this be of service. Thank you all so much for joining me week after week. Make sure you grab your eclipse guides. I will talk to you next week. Much love.